Oh, hi. I want to make a video on the subject of um, explaining yourself and getting the right logic out in certain circumstances. Because in many cases, you obviously miss points in videos and you don't describe something directly. Sometimes you say something, you don't know what you're saying, you're just trying to contain and maintain a point of thought. You're trying to maintain continuity between sentences to make sure you can understand something, but in many cases, that can become obstructive. In many cases, that can become a detriment. And sometimes you just speak off the cuff. You don't even know what you're saying. You're just trying to continue something so you can get the process thought out in your brain. And, in many cases, the idea, say, for example, a person says, oh, you holier than thou types. Just trying to think. Holier than thou types that think smoking, or say something like smoking, is, you don't think an idea through entirely. So like this, and like you can see in many cases, sometimes I just go off the cuff, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm thinking about a thought, making sure I can get a point across as best as I can, and that can happen in many circumstances. In many cases, it can be cleverly disguised, and in other circumstances, it can't be. You can tell when someone's know what they're talking about sometimes. Sometimes they just happen to land on it. They don't realize that they land on it, or it goes smoothly. In other cases, you can kind of tell if a person's kind of just going off the cuff or not know what they're saying, trying to get another point across, trying to remember something, and if they're not making much sense. But like I was mentioning before, on the point, like say, you holier than thou types thinks smoking is bad, even though you're getting carcinogens in other circumstances or other things. You're absorbing other negative airs in your environment. Yes, but at least I'm not doing the smoking part, is what someone can reply with. At least I'm not smoking, right? At least I'm taking one of those things away. What am I doing that you're not doing? Nothing probably. You're probably doing more anyway. Yes, we're doing it anyway, but I'm not saying. At least what I'm saying is, um, I'm not doing the smoking. I guess one of those incomplete thoughts, and that's how many descriptions come out. Is you get these incomplete thoughts. You don't think something through entirely. A person may not respond as cleverly as they could have, and a person that came up with the idea and mentioned it before didn't think things through entirely. Because otherwise, why would they mention something so illogical? Okay, yes, okay, he smokes, he doesn't smoke. The guy that says he smokes, an unbiased third party, right? I'm an unbiased third party. I don't smoke or not smoke. But say I'm not smoking. Yes, okay, I'm not smoking. I don't smoke. Yeah, and you say I get it other places, and you're getting it other places, probably more places than I am, other than smoking, and yet you smoke. At least I'm not doing the smoking. Yes, I am better off than you. The end. At least I'm not doing the smoking. So that's not a good point. Rethink your point and present it to me later on when you have something more logical and better presented. Otherwise, you look like an idiot if you keep on that train of thought any longer. So yes, yes, and you can threaten me all you want. Doesn't mean anything to me, especially through a screen on the internet. You're not going to do anything but break your camera, your screen, or your computer. Go right ahead. Um, Feel free to cause yourself more harassment more than anything. Right back at you, pal. So anyway, pal, buddy old pal. So yes, anyway, the point is, yes, getting thoughts out, understanding exactly what's going on, making sure you can maintain a coherent, cohesive thought process to make sure a point can get across. And I guess things like notes can help you, getting a note across. I've gotten more used to it the more I've gotten used to making videos, but I still sometimes talk fast and I want to get a point across fast, and that's too bad. Sometimes it requires that. I don't want to lose a thought. I want to have a thought, but I want to maintain the thought I have, finish it, then go to that thought and how to connect these ideas. There's so many things going into these things, making sure you get the point across, feeling like you're inadequate if you don't get these points across, and how these things can bury you down and make you feel unmotivated, and you get unmotivated, you get discouraged if you forget something. You sit there and you think about it, but then you talk about it to get over it, and that can happen to me a lot in videos. It's happened to me in almost every video I've made. I've tried to find myself to buy time at the end, beginning, in the middle, somewhere else, and whatever. And logical incongruities. Not only that, I guess. This is a double entendre of not double entendre, but a double video where it has just I guess two topics really. Not only that, cohesive, coherent point of thought, maintaining thought process and getting a point across, but it's also about making a point, understanding the implications of your point and what it means. If you really understand every angle you're coming from the point of view that you're coming from, and understanding if someone else can contradict that point of view, and seeing if you're understanding exactly what you said, and if you are just coming from a ignorant point of view, because you are in many cases. You didn't think things through entirely in many cases. That's what happens in videos. That's why I always cover in the end of my videos And that's why I say if I have anything else to mention, I'll mention in the next video, or any video that I happen to think of something in the process, because sometimes you just forget. You don't mention everything that you need to mention in a video, because that happens, and that's what, that's unfortunate. So yes. So yes, those are the things that happen. My hands. So yes, you don't always cover everything. It's about understanding and learning from that process. And that's something that you learn, I guess. The older you get more wisdom or whatever it is, but you get more experience. And I guess it comes down to learning. It requires learning, understanding a subject, and usually it's like, well, how was I so stupid before? How can I see myself as, say, a cliche compared to all these other people? In many cases, it can be the same thing, but in many cases, also like, I'm doing it now. In many cases, you look at a person, see, this is a good example of how this kind of stuff works. When you undermine a person's intelligence, how like some people that you obviously outright can assume stupid, you end up feeling stupid and looking stupid by assuming they're stupid. You come off from a more stupid point of view, right? And you end up feeling like you're like the person ends up seeming like a genius because you came from it from a slightly diffracted point of view, a slightly wrong point of view, and the person, if you had the expectation that they were nothing but a slug or a rock of an intelligence, obviously you would think all of a sudden, because your expectations were so low, that all of a sudden they said something that was moderately intelligent, that they obviously know it could be specialized knowledge. In many cases that's the case, because obviously they're not really smart to begin with. Your expectation created to make it seem like from your perception, and that perception, obviously you learn from it, can make you understand that that person wasn't smart. They just came from what you came from. They came from a relative point of view in your perception that was awfully negative, and then all of a sudden they said something kind of right here, and all of a sudden they seem super intelligent. Your expectations are below the screen, and all of a sudden they say something right here, and all of a sudden they seem like they're this intelligent, even though they're not. So yes, but going back to the same idea, so at least I don't getting the idea across, and it's about getting the idea as best as you can. You can only do so much to get the ideas across, like I am now. I'm trying to buy time and talk, so there's not a big pause in the middle. I'm trying to get to another point, at least one last point I wanted to make in this video, so at least, like I mentioned the smoking example, at least I'm not doing what you're doing, thinking about an idea thoroughly through, so you understand exactly the context, at least fully the context in which you're trying to describe a situation, or compare yourself relatively to a different situation. So excuse me if I sit here and think for a second about the other example I wanted to use in this video. The other example, it was along the same lines as the previous example as I was using. I think. So I was mentioning, so your relative point of view and such. Anyway, so I guess I'll wing it. So yes, so we are going off of these logical things. So now that it's a part of the video, it's affecting me more. It's just kind of annoying, and it makes it all the more obvious, I suppose. I think, kind of, maybe, sort of, not really. Kind of trying to be a comedian now to make time go by quicker for you. And this isn't a satire video, I swear. An ironic satire video. So yes, at least smoke. So that's the idea that I was trying to think of. So yes, smoke, this, that, the other thing, and it leads to a point, and this point, and that point, and one point and the other, and so yes. So you're trying to get an idea across, and oh man, I just can't think of anything right now. That's kind of annoying. Don't you hate that when it happens? All of a sudden you try to think a little too hard, and all of a sudden, I mean, I guess that's another good thing. You think about it too hard, and that's been shown to prove you need to think about something else before you can remember the idea again. So let's see, let's think about ponies and rainbows so that the idea can re-enter in my head, so I'm not looking blindly at it, sort of like you see it right in front of your face, but since it's right in front of your face and you've been talking about it for so long, you can't see it now. But if you think about something else, all of a sudden you distance yourself from the other thing. Oh, I can see it now, clearly. So ponies and rainbows and fantasy and phantasmagorical anyways and so on, so forths and whatnots and suches. We can, I guess try to go from there. I think it's over there now. Let's see if I can see it clearly and if I'm not too far away or too close. Yes, so all these logical inconsistencies in describing a situation. You have to thoroughly understand exactly where you're coming from when you're describing a situation. You have to consider all possibilities. If you're contradicting a point, understanding the point in which you can understand, so you don't look like a fool in contradiction to those points that you're making. So where you're coming from and where you're going don't end up having to clash with each other like an equal and opposite reaction kind of thing in battle with one another, to make sure that you're not contradicting the truth and how another person can perceive a situation and make it seem like it's different than it actually is. So obviously it's about understanding reality to its fullest and learning your lessons and understanding exactly the full context of how you can look at something based on previous experiences, and how you can look at things from different points of view and use those different points of view to fully form an idea more thoroughly when it comes to thinking about ideas more thoroughly and understanding how they can be battled, and coming from a devil's advocate point of view and looking at that and even almost in a way arguing with yourself to get an idea across or understand exactly where you can come from and where you can go with a subject. So, I mean, I think that's really all I want to mention in this video. I think I wanted to mention one idea that I mentioned in passing on the way to another idea, but that happens. Like I mentioned in this video, it's a good example. It's proof that this kind of stuff happens. And just because I miss a point doesn't mean I don't have the point, or I don't want to make a point, or I forgot to mention. I mean, really, yeah, it really means I just forgot to mention a point, or I forgot the point I wanted to make. I mean, really, it really comes down to that many circumstances. I'm not stupid. I'm not missing something. It just comes out. I need to remember the point next time. And in really many cases, it's OCD. I need to remember the point. Otherwise, I feel like I didn't make the video I had expectations built on. I mentioned like talking fast and all those kinds of things where it's necessary, get an idea across in many circumstances where it's something where you're kind of forced into a situation to make sure you get the point across and things like that, I guess, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else I really need to say at this point. Unless I remember the point I wanted to make, I'll give myself 10 seconds to remember the point I wanted to make. I think I'd have to go from some other point of view, sort of like run away from again or whatever it may be, but I think you get the basic idea. I did mention it in passing, so if anything, I can always make another video about it in response to it. So thank you, and until next time. If I have anything to mention before, I'll mention it.